buying pressure from that news. And I'd say there'd be quite a big short position out there in this one too. So I'm just wondering whether it can ultimately at least have a target back to that point of control in the midterm, near term, and down the track. Who knows? Could be a good one for the bottom draw there. G'day there. Welcome to the closing bell on the 27th of October, and what a difference a week makes. Hopefully I've got your attention now after last week's effort to let you know that I thought it was about to get hammered. And it looks like it's certainly starting to take shape. Could be a lot more to come. And I just wanted to take you through some of the key charts in the US to give you a sense of why I think there could be more to come. But as always, as the further down it goes, the odds change, and the time for trading was, over the last few months as it rolled over, and the risks go up as the market falls, the volatility picks up. You can have big spikes along the way, that sort of thing. So I'll outline everything for you in the big picture to give you a sense of really the pretty tricky setup that is out there. So this is the Russell 2000. It's a US stock index, sort of the general market, I guess, rather than the S&P 500, top stocks, that sort of thing. This is pretty much everything, giving you a sense of what's happening at the mid-cap, smaller end in the US stocks. So I think it gives you a good sense, just looking at this, of the weakness in the market over the past year. You know that in the S&P, the rally we've had over the last year was quite strong, wasn't it? And it went very close to the all-time high and is rolling over now. So that's what the S&P 500 looks like that I've been showing you recently. But have a look at that Russell 2000. Doesn't look as good, does it? And the thing I want to point out mainly here just quickly is you can see went into long-term downtrend last year and is still in long-term downtrend. And the sell-off that we've just seen, and I was just showing you the very long-term chart there. You can see the rally. If we just go up and really have a look at this, you can see that it really struggled. If we're just looking at this whole wave higher, this is how I'm looking at these key waves and the point of control, midpoint of that wave, and the sell zone up there, which it never managed to even get to. Over this last year, lots of selling pressure keeps coming in, and now it's rolling over again. Last month, monthly sell pivot, going back under that 10-month exponential within the long-term downtrend. So that's usually a sell signal. We've then seen another wave lower this month, and you can see that the support at the point of control, which has been holding in there for this last year, may be about to give way. So it's right at the lows from the correction last year. And what is underneath there? Is this thing going to have a bit of a quick trip to the buy zone of that whole wave from post the 2020 crash? So just looking at that Russell, I don't really like the look of it. And sorry, I didn't mean to delete that before. And so the buy zone down there around somewhat 1,200, 1,300, and it's up at 1,600, so it's 300 points. So that could happen quite quickly. It's not really looking that good. Perhaps it then turns and is great buying. I don't know. Just looking at the immediate future. Well, how do things look right now? And right now, I would say that is at risk of seeing some pretty stiff selling pressure if it keeps going. And moving on to the NASDAQ, and I'm going to show you a few of the key NASDAQ companies, the mega tech, and obviously it looks pretty similar to that S&P, but just to recap, we had the wave up post the 2020 crash. I mean, just an immense move in those tech stocks, wasn't it, with rates going to zero? We've had the sell-off last year as rates turned up, and then rates have kept going up, and tech has rallied really sharply over this last year. And you can see, I'm sure by now, if you've been following along, we've got the sell zone there of that whole wave up. That's the area I'm waiting and watching, wondering what's going to happen. And last month, we had the sell pivot, monthly sell pivot. So watch out on the rally. You're being wary, and now it's turning down. So it did turn into that long-term uptrend there, but I'm just wondering whether that's a bit of a dummy. So we'll see now as it breaks through that 10-month exponential, what's there. Does it have a quick sell-off and then turn up, create a monthly buy pivot and long-term uptrend? Away it goes, get long. But through here, where is the support, I guess? And I'm just looking at this big wave correction up into the sell zone. It can see quite sharp selling pressure once it rolls over. So I'm just wondering whether we're going to go and revisit that point of control, which would be down at what, 11,500 or something. So that's possible from here, just on that big picture. And just looking at the key tech stocks, just quickly running through them for you here. We've got Meta. I think some results came out for them, which were a bit disappointing. They were throwing good money after bad on that metaverse at the moment. And I think the rest of their stuff is a bit weak too. So they've had a huge run recently. And you can see from their listing, massive run up to $375. They crashed last year down into, well, the buy zone of that whole wave structure there, turned up, monthly buy pivot, massive run. Where did they run to? Obviously to the sell zone of that whole structure. And just it created a high this month, so it would need another week, month next month to confirm a monthly sell pivot. But it's just in a danger zone where it can actually roll over again. But, shifted into long-term uptrend. So maybe it's just a bit of weakness before heading up again. But right now, just looking a bit toppy to me. Netflix as well, they got really hammered as well last year and have bounced. You've got that whole wave higher up to $700. They got belted right down to that buy zone again perfectly. The reversal and the big run, and just struggling, didn't quite get back to the sell zone there. And you can see monthly sell pivot last month. So it should actually find some selling pressure around here. So just for the short term, looking a little bit iffy because of that sell pivot. But again, has shifted into long-term uptrend. So I guess you're wondering whether it then goes and meets the buying pressure to rally. But just showing you the short term on these large stocks, looking not that flash. Also, Amazon turning down, looks like that is going to confirm a monthly sell pivot this month. So again, it got hammered. Been a good run, and rates still rising fast. So monthly sell pivot does that, roll back over into long-term downtrend. So just looking a bit toppy in the short term. Also on Apple even, super strong stock. I wouldn't be shorting it, but just saying we've got a double top there, monthly sell pivot last month, and just often a double top. It can back off a bit, but it's super strong stock. So just saying short term, looking not that flash. Also Alphabet, Google, you can see there that it's a very similar situation of what I've been saying, looking at the whole wave up since 2020, and just looking at the sell zone of that area. Is the selling pressure going to come in that area? And in the short term, we're seeing yes. So it's fallen back below the bottom of that sell zone. What's going to be there, I guess? Again, long-term uptrend. But just short term, is this going to head back to that point of control, which can happen? So again, a bit of that weakness there, just saying that the tech stocks, I think, could have further to fall. This is Tesla. And again, still in long-term uptrend there. Long-term downtrend. So that's a bit weaker than the rest of them. It's had a big fall. I mean, what a run, right? For near zero, $400. Hammered in that correction last year. We've had a good run over the last year, but really hasn't gone back to those highs. And now, I think even last month was the monthly sell pivot, and this is carrying on back below the 10-month exponential. So really it should have weakness for a bit going forward. So Tesla not looking that flash. So just the tech stocks, I think there's a chance that there could be some selling there. And just you saw in the Russell, not looking that great. So just jumping to what we were looking at last week. So here we are, just updating on that S&P 500 from last week. It has actually hit the midpoint. I'll show you in a second. So just following on where we've got that selling pressure coming in where we expected. Looking at the long-term chart, no need to keep recapping for you, but the big wave higher, retest of the point of control, up into that selling pressure in the sell zone, sell pivot, and then here we go, starting to roll over. So the question is, now that it has hit the midpoint, does it find support there and turn and run? That's when the odds start sort of falling back towards 50%, and you want to have your trades on by that stage. The question is, what happens now that we've hit the midpoint of the whole, sorry, just getting my thing fixed up, that midpoint of the whole wave, that correction from last year. What happens next? Does it just fly through there and head down to that buy zone area? Or, is that it? I don't think it is it based on what I was just showing you with that Russell. But, it can provide support. So you've seen here in the past, it's hit it quite a few times and spent months of work stuffing around before it finally broke out and went on the run that it did. So, this is how hard markets are. We could stay in here for above it for the next 4 months and then it cracks. But because we've got this momentum going now, I'm just interested to see whether it will crack, and that's why I've been putting on positions up in this area, getting exposure to the downside, hedging, stock positions, that sort of thing, because once it falls, if it does crack, it can be a quick trip. So that's sort of where we're at right now. So looking at the weekly, But we're just moving to sort of the next stage in this whole process. We've got the weekly trend has turned down. It's retested those moving averages and is now breaking down, having broken through those lows and the 200-day moving average. We're now underneath that. And in that phase, which can be like this. So we're wondering whether it's going to be like this, and then another retest, and then another failure. Anything can happen here. Big bounce, and then it does it. You've just got to be prepared for anything in this sort of a market. It's going to fly around. That's why the idea for me is, entering positions and then taking apart profits, so that whatever happens, you've got a stop loss then at a break-even stop loss back at the high of the whole range. That sort of idea, where you're taking your part profits when the odds are heading back towards that 50% region. And when it's back at the point of control, that's sort of what it's like. You're wondering, is the buying pressure now going to come in? So I think it is going to keep going the way it is now, and it really needs to rally quite strongly. And, even a weekly buy pivot, let's say, from here will sort of confirm that for now, the point of control is providing support, and we could get another wave higher, whatever. But we're still just saying it's got to get back above the high of that whole structure for me to be shifting and becoming bullish or that sort of thing. So right now it's, on tenterhooks, I guess. Does it break through that point of control, and what's there? So looking up now, now that it's moving to I guess the next stage of this process is just looking at the shorter term and saying, well, where can it fall to? So I'd be looking at this wave structure still trending higher. And so that most recent wave, I'm looking at that wave there and considering that. And you can see it's breaking down through the point of control of that. And really, you're saying it can head straight there. So that's 3,900 to 4,000. That's another 200 points down. It can do that in the next few weeks, quite seriously. And then, that might be it. And lots of volatility before it sort of carries on to the downside, whatever it wants to do. But just in this phase, it's now in that sort of high risk time where the selling pressure could just keep coming. And if we just look at the daily, you can see on that daily that, I'll just clean this up for you a bit, the daily there having broken through that 200-day moving average. We were chatting last week. I was sort of saying, watch out, this can really get going here. And sure enough, it is. So we really need to see quite a strong buying and, before I could be getting sort of shifting the short-term view. I want to see what happens here. And really that old low plus the 200-day moving average should be pretty good resistance. So if you see a short-term rally and then it turns down and breaks below the low created last night, that's when it really could be on. If it has a retest of resistance and fails, people will be getting a bit nervous, I think. And then you're looking at that real sort of confirmed break of the 200-day moving average. And that's when it can, it's always kills everyone who tries to trade the 200-day. It's really very impossible. But when it does go, you can see there it's sold off, then retested the 200-day moving average. And when it broke back below that low, watch out, boom, really bad selling pressure. So that's sort of how I see it right now, a bit, ready and waiting to see whether this thing's going to keep going. I think the across the board looking a bit iffy, and that Russell certainly looking like it might keep going. So for mine, I think it does keep going to the downside and could surprise, but we're now at a point where you've just got to release yourself to the market and see what happens. Your positions should be on because it's getting too high risk to be creating short positions down here. All right, that's enough for today. Actually, I'm going to finish off just with that move in the graphite sector. Just to have a quick look at something that's actually positive. So just, looking at that graphite sector, a few different stocks. I mean, there's more out there, but the ones I've sort of got an eye on. Syrah, obviously, the major one. I mean, I've got a position in a few of these. I don't really want to say too much. Although I did do an article the other day, actually, didn't I? Saying I did buy Syrah. So that's the one that I'm pretty interested in, but I'm also interested in a few others as well. So just looking at those graphite stocks, just quickly, the ones to go sort of researching, I guess, looking at good old Syrah, which has had a lot of problems. The whole sector really hammered with, I think, synthetic supply over in China, really coming online and discounting and a bit of oversupply going on. So we've seen what was this first vertically integrated AAM, anode materials supplier, ex-China, which is what Syrah will be when their Vidalia comes online, their facility in the US this quarter. So had a massive run on the back of the expectation, and then we've had graphite and general market weakness, that sort of thing. And you can see it's been absolutely creamed. And the news out of China that they're going to start managing their exports of graphite and probably restricting them has really got people looking and thinking about this sector again, the huge demand uplift to come over the coming decades, of course. And this one, you can see that the big sell-off has gone right down to the bottom of that buy zone. It's not quite going to be a monthly buy pivot because it actually created another low this month, but we've got the buying pressure from that news. And I'd say there'd be quite a big short position out there in this one too. So I'm just wondering whether it can ultimately at least have a target back to that point of control in the midterm, near term, and down the track. Who knows? Could be a good one for the bottom draw there. RNU as well, another one that you can see this month will get the monthly buy pivot. It's had a long drawn out sell-off that's been going on, but looking like a little false break of that major low, and monthly buy pivot looking interesting, still in that long-term downtrend. But if you're aggressive and on the basis of this news, that might be one that you want to go and research. Talga as well, working through in Europe with their graphite mine and lots of other work they're doing, getting environmental permit taking time. But this one you can see lots of work done over the last few years, big run a few years ago. It really has been struggling. I've had a go at it, and members will know I got shaken out of this one recently. But I'm just looking at it, wondering, a little false break there and a rally, and is this the false break here, and then turning up? And even if it's sold off, I'd probably be a pretty strong buyer if it was to head down to that 40 to 60 cent region. So it's a bit iffy right now, but on that back of that news, I'm wondering, and I guess they need to wait for the environmental permits and that sort of thing, and a monthly buy pivot out of there could be interesting. So yeah, they're the other ones. EGR also turning up. You can see that's also had a big hammering over this last period, turning up, possible monthly buy pivot there from the buy zone. BKT, not quite there yet with a monthly buy pivot. It will, if it in the next few days has a close above 11 cents. That one also pulling back into the sort of buy zone area of that recent wave from the last few years. So that could be an interesting one as well. And the little piddlers, not quite there for me. These ones quite weak. But if you like the really high risk stuff, you could go and have a look at those, I guess. But yeah, not really for me, these ones just yet. So that's it for today. A bit of a hunting ground in that graphite space. And yeah, well, I guess the rest of the market, watch out. Cheers.